So Dan, what's going on, buddy? How you doing tonight?
I'm good, man. How are you? How are you?
Well, now that you're here, I'm fantastic. I,
Good.
I'm yeah, I like. Well, yeah, I guess it's fantastic. So I appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much for taking the
I
time out
appreciate
of
you
your.
having me here, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, it's a privilege to be here. Don't forget that.
That's right. It
That's right.
is.
It
I'm
is.
honored. Thank you for having me
Thank
here.
you very much, man. Make sure I turn my phone off because it's such a privilege to have me on here with you. Yeah. So here's the thing, man. You're my first interview. I just
Ooh.
started a YouTube channel. Now, I started a channel several years ago. I just never did any videos. I have the @ symbol at ActionFigures. So that's my handle.
Wow. You
Yeah.
really? That's
Yes, sir.
amazing.
Yeah. Hey, I've been on YouTube as long as you've been. Well, my main account is 2006, 7, somewhere around that range.
That's about the
So
same time that I
yeah,
signed up for my first account. That's
yeah.
amazing.
So
Wow.
when I got the opportunity to get they were doing the @ symbols, I hopped right on that for this channel. And I started this channel, Lights Camera Action Figures at Action Figures. And I was like, that's like you type in Action Figures, boom. So hopefully
Yeah.
eventually I get to a point where I have enough following where that comes up as the main thing. So
Incredible, man. That's awesome.
yeah, man, appreciate it. So again, you're my first interview. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you for taking the time. Most people know who you are, but for those who don't, please introduce yourself. Tell the audience about yourself, and you can be brief, you can be long. It doesn't matter. You just tear it up, man. Tell them who you
Sure.
are.
No, my name's Dan, but most people know me as Pixel Dan. I've been doing YouTube videos about toys for gosh, 18 years now. It's kind of unbelievable. But yeah, I've been doing the thing for a long time now, talking about toys and getting cool opportunities to travel around, interview toy companies, visit toy companies. I got the opportunity not too long ago to write a book about toys, my all-time favorite property in Masters of the Universe.
Which we're
It's
gonna
been
get
a
into.
really we are definitely going to talk about it for sure. But
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
it's been a really fun journey that I kind of just fell into by accident one day just because I like this stuff and I wanted to share it with other people. And so I am very grateful for the fun that I've been able to have over the last 18 years.
Well, since you fell into it, let me ask you this: how did you? And thank you for that wonderful introduction there, sir. To yourself.
You're
But
welcome.
how did you get the name Pixel Dan? Because if I'm not mistaken, I do remember watching you. Was it always Pixel Dan? There's two questions. I'm gonna throw two questions here. You're Pixel Dan. How did you get that name? And has it
Hmm.
always been Pixel Dan? Because I recall you and someone else with a backdrop of it was like not a pegboard, but like a metal board with like toys that hung on it. If I'm not mistaken, it's been
Yeah.
a
Okay.
long time before classics dropped. So talk 2007, 8, 6, 7, 8. I don't know. Let's
2008, 2009. Hmm.
okay, 9. Maybe that's what it was. So tell us how you got the name Pixel Dan, and have you always been Pixel Dan on the channel, and what you did?
So when I originally started videos, my name was just like it was a screen name. I was using my screen name. It was Mandalorian 30, right? I
Okay.
was way ahead of the Mandalorian thing. Because that was always my screen
Copyright
name.
strike.
That's right. Yeah.
They owe you.
So that was always my screen name on message boards, dating back like American Dream Comics, which eventually became Toy News International, He-Man.org, Rebel Scum, all these old message boards. Mandalorian 30 was what I posted as. And so when I first started doing YouTube videos, I just used my screen name, right? So man, it's crazy because I didn't have the foresight at the time, and also we didn't know what YouTube was going to turn into. But for a long time, my URL for YouTube was youtube.com/Mandalorian 30 because I couldn't change it. That's just what it was,
What it
right?
was. Yeah.
Um, so the name Pixel Dan came because when I first really started doing the YouTube thing, I had gotten real big into watching retro video game videos. Like YouTube was
Mhm.
brand new at the time, and one of the first things that really jumped out at me were like things like the Angry Video Game Nerd and stuff like that. And I was like so entertained by these people talking about something that I loved from my childhood in retro video games. And that's kind of what got me kind of excited and wanting to do something similar. Like I felt all of a sudden I had this motivation to try doing something like that. But I knew that if I was going to do it, I had to make it my own thing. I had to do my own
Right.
thing. I couldn't just copy what they were doing. And so I knew pretty much right away that I wanted to talk about toys because I like retro video games, but toy collecting is like that's my main hobby, right? My main passion. And so what I did to like be adjacent to the video game stuff that was blowing up in popularity, the
Yeah, absolutely.
first series I created was about toys based on video games. And I created a series called From Pixels to Plastic. And that's where the name Pixel Dan came from. Because the funny thing is like for the first several videos, I was like introducing myself as Mandalorian 30. But then, like a good friend of mine, my friend Lance, shout out to Lance, he referred to me one day as Pixel Dan because I was the guy that did From Pixels to Plastic.
Right. Right.
And it started catching on like other people. I noticed other people were kind of just referring to me as that. And I was like the light bulb went off because
Right.
that feels like a marketable name. Like that's like a brand, right?
Well,
Like,
it is.
and this
Yeah.
is like a long time ago, right? But I knew that I needed something that was like better than Mandalorian 30. And so I jumped on it and I just started calling myself Pixel Dan. And it just took off. Like that stuck. That was my name from that point forward. And I did that for a while. I loved doing the video game toys show, but it wasn't too long before I was like, I really want to talk about He-Man because I love He-Man. And I had a bunch of He-Man
Yeah.
toys. And so I did a video called The Many Versions of He-Man, where I just
Mhm.
showed all the He-Man variants up to that point, which was literally just the vintage toy line and new adventures, right? And to the
And the
2000
2000. Right.
2000X. Yeah. So that
Right.
was a lot shorter of a video than it would be today, right? But I did that was my first He-Man video. And I put that out and then at that point I knew I needed to like find the right audience. So like I shared it on heman.org and it's funny because Val Staples reached out to me, who would later go on to be one of my best friends. But
Mhm.
he reached out to me at the time and was like, "Oh, this is so cool! Like, I love what you're doing. Can I put this on the front page of the site to share it?" And so he did. And when it front paged it on heman.org, it like blew up. And you got to
Yeah.
remember, this was before YouTube is what it is now. Nobody was going to
Absolutely.
YouTube to watch things, right?
Yeah.
So if you wanted your stuff to get seen, it had to be on websites like this. Like websites like this
Absolutely.
had to like post it and share it, and that's how people saw it. So that's what kind of got people to start like really paying attention to what I was doing. And then I just started doing more He-Man videos. But you were also referring to the show I did with my friend Jason Duvall.
Okay. Yeah,
Th-
that's the one with you
so
and him.
so
Yeah.
I was doing all this stuff, and he was like local. He's a local friend of mine, still a local friend of mine. Jason's
So what
great.
year was that? What
Uh,
year was that?
this would have
Where was
been
that?
so I started doing stuff in like '08, right? And then in '09 probably is when Jason came to me and was like, "Hey, what you're doing is really cool. I kind of want to like do that with you." And so we started brainstorming ideas together because he's a toy collector too. And that's when we kind of came up with like doing a show together called That New Toy Smell. And you'll probably
Okay, I remember
remember
that. Yeah,
it. Yeah.
that's yeah.
So that's the one that we did together. And then some more of our friends joined in, and we kind of did that as like an ensemble show for a while.
Mhm.
So I was doing that. I was doing From Pixels to Plastic. I was doing the Motu stuff. Motu Classics came out in
Chalk,
'09. And then
right.
that became a whole thing on its own. Cause that's kind of when I started reviewing like modern toys. Like all of a sudden I'm like doing toy reviews. I'm not just talking
Mhm.
about toys anymore. And so like that's like it was crazy because like in a span of like 2 to 3 years it went from me just kind of like wanting to do something fun to like all of a sudden I've got all these different things happening all at the same time, all these different ideas, all these different projects, working with different people. And then Motu Classics really just like that's when it really just launched it,
Popped
right?
off.
Because it became a thing. It became a thing, and people started like getting excited to see my video on the new classics figure every month
I
because
did.
they were released.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were released one a month. That's the way it was. So like I got to make one video a month on a He-Man toy, and it was like people were excited to see it, and it was a very, very cool experience. So like that's really just how it like that's how the whole thing happened. And it all just happened because I was inspired by somebody else and I wanted to try it myself.
Well, the nerd is definitely an inspiring individual. Uh,
I feel
and
like everybody's got a very similar
NES,
story about him, right?
yeah, wow. I love, dude. I love that dude. I love watching
James
him
is
anyway.
great.
He's yeah. So the punk NES the punk Pat is
Pat.
he's a phenomenal individual as well when it comes to the video game market. They've cut back on their podcast, but they do a great job with stuff as well. Um, but so you were
Love Pat.
Mandalorian, so you switched to Pixel Dan on the forum as well for org, right? For
I
He-Man.org.
did. I did.
Can you guess
And that was
what my name
actually
was
what
on there?
that was one of those things where Val had said to me like, "Hey, I think it's probably time you switch your name on here." And
Yeah,
like he let me he like went in and switched the
he let you
name
keep
because
your
you know,
account. It's what
he
yeah,
let
yeah,
me
yeah,
keep
yeah.
my account and he changed the name for me just so that yeah, so that people knew who I was.
Well, so what do you think mine was?
I
You're a shot
mean,
in the dark.
I don't know. I mean, like, I know your Instagram is Thunder Punch He-Man. Was it something like that on
It was
He-Man.org too?
He-Man. It was He-Man.
It was just He-Man. That's
It was He-Man.
amazing. You
It
were the
was. It was
one guy. You
I
were
was the guy.
He-Man.
I was He-Man. So when and I know we're interviewing you, but I just real quick I had to because I love the org. It was a fantastic place.
Such a
I did
fun
more. I was
place,
more of a
man.
stalker. I was more of a stalker. You remember that? No, I'm not a stalker. Everyone, just let's clarify. But if you went on the boards and you looked and you if you once in a while post, you were more of a stalker than you were a poster. That's how
Right. A
they.
lurker?
This is
Sometimes they call it a
a
lurker,
lurker,
right?
stalker.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Clarify that lurker,
Yeah.
whatever. Uh, so I was more of that, but I put my little collection on there. I collected 2 packs, vintage gift sets back in the day. So I had my little pictures on there, and I was part of a couple little groups. And
That's amazing.
uh, I for a while on org, I couldn't join because I didn't have I had like free like AOL or
Oh, you
Net
had to have
Zero.
like a
Free. You had to have a paid subscription to an email. So I ended up
yeah.
paying. I ended up getting a He-Man and She-Ravers like email, and then I was able to join through that. And I had a silver. I think it was like $50 or $100, whatever. I donated to join and had a little thing and yeah. So
That's cool.
some great memories there. But I appreciate you sharing that, man. That's I'm glad
Yeah.
to I do renew I knew and you had the when was the little Mega Man, not Mega Man, but the little pixelated figure was your logo, like you had like the little dude was
It
you remember
well, it was like a Mega Man that had like my head on it,
the
if you
8-bit?
remember.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
a little
yeah, right,
little
yeah, okay.
pixelated. Yeah.
Yeah. You come a long way from all of that,
I
man.
know. It's pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, let me ask you this. So when did you realize, or if it hasn't happened in your opinion, you can answer that too. That's fine if you want to. When did you realize that YouTube was a success, if it was at all? Um, have you thought that, or do you feel that way now, or do you? And we're going to get into the other channel here in a second. And I know you've broke off, but have you? When did you feel like, okay, this is my thing? Like when? Can you
Mm.
recall when the moment happened? Or if you feel like it has it all, like, you may not, you may say you still have expectations,
Yeah,
but I'm just curious.
that's it's really it's really you know, I think it was exciting early on, like when people started really paying attention and I was getting the views and I started getting the attention of toy companies. This is again, this predates influencer, right? Influencer
Right.
wasn't a thing, that wasn't a term yet, that wasn't like a department at toy companies yet. But the fact that what I was doing was like getting Mattel's attention was
Mhm.
exciting, right? Like
Yeah.
as somebody who grew up loving this stuff and all of a sudden Mattel is emailing you and saying, "Hey, we like what you're doing. Can we send you a figure?" Like, who would say
You're gonna say
no to
no?
that,
Yeah.
right?
No.
Who's going to say no to that?
And that's the
So,
time where
like
that wasn't a big thing at the time. So, like, that was an
Right.
honor at that time, like, "Hey, this is great." Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean. Yeah, it felt very different. And that's why, like, it's so weird now because I'm still around doing this. And obviously the culture has changed a lot. And I've seen just everything shift so much. But like, I've been around doing this before influencer was a thing. And
Right.
I've seen the opinions of this shift in both directions. Like,
Mhm.
accepting stuff from companies is bad to, oh, that's just the way things are now, and we all want to accept things from company. You know what I mean? I've seen it's
Right.
super weird, and I've just been here the whole time doing it,
Yeah,
like
just here in the
watching
background,
the
just
culture.
yeah.
Yeah, just watching the culture around me change. It's been super, super weird to like kind of sit back and witness. Sometimes I sit here and I'm just like, man, like I've been doing this since before it was a thing, and it's still like there's so many people now, like kids grow up wanting to be
Yeah,
YouTubers and TikTokers and Twitch streamers, and they can and they do, you
they
know?
do. Right.
It's
Yep.
insane. And I'm sitting here and like I have 300,000 subscribers, which seems pretty measly probably to them, but to me, I know that like I've spent a long time like building that, right? I put a lot of
A
work into that and
long
I'm
time.
proud of those numbers.
Should
I'm
be.
proud of those numbers. So, I think I guess I got away from your question a little bit, but like
No, you're
when
fine, man. It's fine.
when I started getting to like travel with this, right? When I started get like the day that I was like, you know what? Why can't I fly out to California and go to Comic Con? Like that always felt like a pipe dream. And then one day I was just like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go. And I've been going ever since, you know. And I
Mhm.
feel like when I started getting out there and meeting people, like not like just seeing screen names and comment sections and stuff like that. When I got to meet real people face to face who got to say things to me about enjoying my content or my content meaning something to them, like that's what made this all real. And it's one of those things that like I I I don't take that for granted. I can't take that for granted. And I keep doing this. I keep getting out there and traveling all the time because like I need to see that. You know, sometimes you get in your own head and like when you're all you're seeing is comment sections and stuff like that, it can be mentally exhausting. And you can sit there and really like, why am I doing this? Does this really matter? But when you go out there and you see and you meet real people, like that's when you know what you're doing matters. And
Right, the impact you have on
that's
individuals.
right. And that's when I started doing that, that's when I realized that this was like a real thing. What I was doing mattered, that I had created something special here. But like I said, like I kind of have to keep reminding myself of that all the time. And that's why I like getting out there and like meeting people and like, getting a chance to like interact and be friends and fans together with people so we can all celebrate this hobby that we love so much.
Well, I would say you've done well. So, speaking of doing
Thank you.
well on the channel, and you've flown, you've done things, you've gone places, you've met the people who support you, like, not in the comment section, but subscribe to you, look forward to your videos, and now you've branched off into this second channel. So,
Yeah.
this second channel, which I find to be fantastic,
Thank you.
and I'm sure there'll be some you just love Dan. Yeah, Dan's, he's got some good stuff going on there. You know, what what made you I know why you broke off, and did this. We know why. Because, obviously we talk about things and all, so I know where you're going with this and what you're doing, but explain to people why or what made you do this second channel if you don't mind. Because it's a
Of course.
fantastic channel, and I'm gonna put that in the link below so people can check
Thank
that
you.
out because it's fantastic. Yeah.
Um, it was a very difficult decision, but we were just talking about the culture changing and shifting so much over the years.
Mhm.
And it's constantly evolving. And it's one of these things where like, you've always heard that like if you want to stay relevant, you have to kind of go with the flow. You got to play the game. You've got to find, you can't just sit back and keep doing the same thing all the time, because like you might get left behind. You might,
Yeah,
and that
I'm
might
gonna get
be,
left.
I mean, and and it might be, and that might be totally fine for some people too. And I don't
Right,
want to say that what anybody's doing is wrong. And if you're enjoying what you're doing, that's bottom line the most important thing. Like, you need to
right.
do what makes you happy on this.
Mhm.
For me, I was really starting to notice that like it was becoming a challenge with the current state of YouTube and the word that you always hear, the algorithm, the
Right,
algorithm. But just the way things are now are so different from the way they used to be. The way that people are constantly taking in this content, you got short form content, you got long
yeah,
form content, you got
right, yeah,
all this different stuff, right?
yeah,
And what really started happening with me, what we kind of noticed, like I got some help. I hired some help whose like job is to just look at the back end stuff and help me figure out SEO and all that kind of stuff, because I'm
right, yeah.
terrible at that. I've been on this platform for 18 years. I still don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Like I make my videos and I hope for the
Can't figure
best.
it out, man.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah. So, but like we started really monitoring, trying to figure out, because like my views were fine, but they weren't where I wanted them, or they weren't where I felt they should be, especially as somebody who's been doing this for a long time. You know what I mean?
right.
And I'm not saying that like I deserve
No, no,
whatever.
no, yeah.
I
You
felt
mean
like
for the
I was
toy
working.
video specifically,
Yeah. I felt like I
how
was working really
right,
hard, and YouTube wasn't like showing my videos to anybody, right? Like
mhm.
I have a great core audience that's always there to watch whatever I put out. But like you sometimes need more than that. You need new people to find you. Like it's always
So
like you
so when you
go ahead.
switched my apologies, I just wanna make sure, so when you switched from a toy review to a toy hunt, you would notice that YouTube was like, "Okay, he's not doing the typical stuff where," so it's almost the computer or the system recognized as something different, and you
Yeah.
had to adjust to the system. So instead of
Yes.
trying to adjust the channel, you broke off and did a channel just specifically for that. That way, when you did a new video, you didn't get wrecked on the next two videos for a tour review, so it didn't take time for people to come back. Like, okay,
Exactly. Yes, because
it's
that's exactly what was happening, what you just said. And it's this was hard for me to accept, right? Because I've spent 18 years building a channel. And in my mind, I should be able to put whatever I want on there. And
right.
that's just my
Makes sense.
one-stop shop for all my content, right? Like I've spent this long time building this. But in
Right.
reality, what was happening was like I started doing these toy hunts because I know I'm traveling a lot, and I
Traveling
saw
more.
this
Yeah.
I saw this opportunity to like do some on the spot stuff, shine a light on small businesses, do this sort of thing. And people started really responding to it. Like those started becoming my most watched uploads. But then what
Mhm.
would happen is I would upload a toy hunt, it would do really good. And then I would upload a toy review a couple days later and it wouldn't do as good. And then like my next two videos would bomb, because what
Right.
was
Yeah.
happening is YouTube was getting confused on what audience to share this stuff with, right?
Gotcha.
The toy hunts are more of like an ongoing series. It's a show. And it might be something where like if you like it, you might want to watch every episode. With a toy review, you're probably only going to watch the toy review of the thing that you care about. Most people.
Correct.
Like if you don't like Thundercats, maybe you're not going to watch that Thundercats review.
Whoa,
You'll wait
whoa,
for when you'll
whoa.
you'll wait for when Dan reviews a Ninja Turtle and then you'll watch that one, right? So like
Gotcha.
just as an example, that's the
Yeah,
kind
I
of thing that
understand. Yeah.
happens, right? So like, and the other thing is like I like covering smaller indie toy companies too, but the
Yeah.
reality is the reach on those is much smaller than a Motu or a Ninja Turtle or a Thundercat. So like
Mhm.
I would do a review on a small toy company that I thought was really cool, and people that watched it would like it, except it would only get 5,000 views when like a standard He-Man video might get 20,000 views. And when YouTube
Right.
sees that, they go, "Uh-oh, I guess people don't care about
Nobody
this
wants
channel
this.
anymore."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's irritating. But it was one of those things where it's like, let's play the game and see what happens. So it took a lot of convincing. My friend Matt kept saying, you should start a new channel for the toy hunts. And I kept saying, no, I don't want to do that.
I'm
And he
Pixel
fought me
Dan.
for
I
about
don't need to
6
do that.
months. He fought me for about 6 months and I finally gave in.
And it's
And he was,
working,
I
in my
mean,
opinion.
he was
It's
right.
working.
It's working.
Yeah, the
It's
views are doing
working.
its thing. Yeah. Well, so
So,
speaking of toy hunts, and
mhm.
you're obviously for those of you who don't know, Dan is into toys, action
I,
figures,
a little bit.
whatever you want to, well, just a tiny bit, as you can see there behind him a little bit. So, I'm just trying to move along here, man, because I appreciate your time and it's precious. Obviously, you got
I'm
a
long
lot
winded
going
too,
on.
so I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I appreciate everything you can give me, man. But swinging from the toy hunts now and the toys, the indie companies, everything you look at, what was the first IP in your mind? And I know I pretty much know this, but I'm curious to make sure. What's the first IP in your mind that you said, you know what, I'm collecting this? Not not grandma or mom or somebody bought me a figure and I've got 20 of them. What is
Okay.
something that you said, this is not like I had a bunch of these, I collected those. No. When did Dan say, you know what? You could have been a teen or you could have been an adult, whatever, or adolescence. It doesn't matter. When did you say to yourself, you know what? I got to have all of this. What toy line was it? And when did you know in your mind that I'm collecting this? This is not something I'm just getting.
Yeah. So that would be 1995.
Whoo, you
Star
got
Wars
this down.
Power of the Force.
Really?
It was Star Wars. And that's
Gosh.
because so in 95, 96, I was becoming a freshman in high school, so I was a teenager.
Mhm.
I had already been like couple years probably past having toys as like a toy thing, right? The last
Right,
stuff
right,
that
right.
I was really getting would have been the Toy Biz, X-Men, Marvel, Spider-Man
96,
stuff.
95. Yeah, 90. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the early 90s Toy Biz
96,
stuff
X-Men,
to
95.
about
Right.
the mid 90s. And I specifically remember like my dad at that point being like, "Hey, maybe you're getting too old for those." And I was like, "What? No, like I'm not."
Like,
But
dude, Street Sharks just came out recently. Like, I got,
yeah,
House
right,
of
right.
Crusaders is so hot. Come on, man.
But that was about the time that I stopped like, getting toys actively. But a couple years later, 95, 96, I walk into the store and I see Star Wars toys all of a sudden. And like, oh, I love Star Wars, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
I
funny
don't do
because
that.
like in my teenage years, like those movies were huge for me. Like I loved those movies. Like that's when I really started loving those films. And so when I walk into the store and see those toys, it became one of those things where like I felt the pull, right? But like, oh, I can't buy toys because I'm too old for toys. But look at these things. They're so cool, right? So like I literally had to like convince my mom and dad, like, oh, look, they're Star Wars. It's not like toys. I'm not gonna play with them. I'm gonna collect these. I need these. I'm gonna keep them in the package because they're collectible,
Ooh.
right? So, and then I did. I started buying them, but also like when I turned 16, I got my own job, and so I had money, and so Star Wars became the stuff I was buying.
Right.
And I was buying a bunch of Star Wars stuff. Now the funny thing is also I was like real huge into WWF at this time, WWE wrestling. So it wasn't long before I was like buying action figures of my favorite wrestlers too. Like I'd drive to Toys R Us on a Friday night with my paycheck from Burger King, and I'd be like, I probably need this Undertaker figure.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
probably need,
I gotta get
yeah.
this. Yeah.
Right. So like that's definitely where like the shift happened, I feel like. Because Star Wars specifically, like I was doing that thing where I was like buying them all and I was leaving them in the package and I was hanging them on the walls in my
Wall.
bedroom at
Yeah.
home, with the thumbtacks and boom 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 Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars. And then in 2000, I walked into a Walmart and I saw commemorative Masters of the Universe figures hanging there.
I wish you
And
wouldn't have brought
that's,
that up.
man, that is the moment where like I think that's probably the first time I experienced nostalgia because I saw that and I was like, I haven't thought about this since I was like 7 years old, 8 years old. Oh my god, it's He-Man. And
Wow.
at the time, like I didn't have money to buy everything that I saw on the shelf, right? But I scooped all those figures up and I put them on layaway. If you remember
Jason Finney.
layaway.
Basic
Yeah,
Instinct.
that's how
You
old
said,
we
yeah,
are.
Basic Instinct, yeah.
Put all those
Can't even
figures
do that
on
now.
layaway. Yep. Slowly paid them off with my Burger King paychecks, and then boom, I had He-Man figures again. And so like that was, I always kind of joke like Star Wars, I feel like is a collector's gateway drug into collecting, because I feel like so many people were like
Once you're
started with
hooked, you
Star
can't
Wars
try
and
a
then
new
bought
drug.
everything.
Yeah.
So that's
Maybe.
that's my
Yeah.
story.
Well, so let me ask you this. Did you finish Power of the Force?
No, I didn't get every single
Have you
thing.
to
Like
this
I
day?
got
Have you finished it?
no, I don't think I have. Maybe. So I went real hard through, the red cards, the green cards,
Mhm.
the hollow.
Yeah.
Then I was like looking for all the. This was the first time I was looking for variants too. Like I remember getting word about the Boba Fett with the half circle or the full circle painted on the back of his hand, and you're like looking for right. So like that's how you know I'm a collector now, because I'm looking
Somebody
for
paged you.
variants and
Okay,
stuff.
hold on, I got a page here.
Yeah,
I gotta know. Yeah. It's way before social
but
media and all that stuff.
so like I remember like I was buying those real heavy, and then like 99 was huge because Phantom Menace came out.
Mhm.
And that was like my first experience doing like a midnight Toys R Us
That was
thing.
99?
99. And it was
Wow.
amazing, dude. Like I still remember how much fun that was going to Toys R Us at midnight and just like everybody there buying all the Star Wars figures. It was so cool. And it's
That's
funny, we all
insane.
like look back now and we're like, Phantom Menace. But like that was a fun period. It was a really fun period.
Wow, man. I did the midnight release of 7. Well, I guess it'd be number 1. So it goes backwards. So it was, let me see, what year would that have been?
Or was episode
96,
198? Maybe episode one was episode one
No, 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 no.
98 or
I'm
9.
saying that, so the new ones. So you had, so it was, see, it was 2016, 2015, 16. They had a midnight
You're talking about
release.
episode 7,
7,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and then it doesn't go backwards like it's
Well, they did 7, 8, 9. Those are the new ones. You're talking about like Ray and Kylo Ren and all that
right,
stuff.
Kylo Ren,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but 7, and what they don't they go back, they go backwards though, right? So like, so the
Well,
first 3 are actually 5, 6, 7, or 4, or 4, 5, 6,
4,
right?
5, 6.
4,
Yeah,
5,
and then they
6.
did 1, 2, and
Then
3,
1, 2,
and then they
3,
jumped
and this
forward
is
and did
7.
7, 8, 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
phew, man, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So it's just so much stuff, dude. Like, so 7, I did the midnight release for that. I remember like clamoring to get everything, it's like I gotta get all this stuff, and so I've done the midnight thing. Now, much later, obviously, you were doing this way before it was even organized on social media. Like when nobody knew
Right.
unless you were in it deep. I used to do this for Hot Wheels on Sundays at Kmart like years ago. They do this collector event on Sundays.
Uh-huh.
And this,
Uh-huh.
I'm going way back, like way back. Not just the stuff that's more recent, but Kmart's not even around anymore. I don't think they're even in business anymore. So
I don't think so either. Yeah, I think they're gone.
yeah. Yeah. The layaway days are those
It's
department stores.
over. Yeah,
They're
it's
gone. It's not
long gone.
layaway. You got to get it now or you're gonna miss out, man. But so 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 speaking on the collection and trying to collect things, and is there anything that at the time, so leading up to, we'll say now, leading up to now, you're collecting obviously Star Wars, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I always thought would have been Turtles, but it's nice to hear that, hey, it was, because Turtles is huge with you. I know that. Motu's
Yeah,
huge with
so
you,
Motu and Turtles were my big 2 childhood things. But
right? So
I didn't
yeah,
I didn't go back to Turtles until they came back in 2003. So like when that new
okay,
series launched in 2003, that's when I was like, "Oh, Turtles."
Turtles,
And I
yeah.
was like, yeah, I
So
got back
really,
into that.
we have to thank Mattel for doing the commemorative stuff. It got you kind of going on the Motu kick. So we
Yeah.
could kind of point to that being the part where you're like, boom, okay,
Oh,
now we're back to
absolutely.
you. The really nostalgia kick.
Finding those is what made me go home and get on the internet, which was like AOL back then for
AOL
everybody.
dial up. Yeah.
Yeah, on my
Your Napster,
dial-up modem
you're downloading
and
songs.
type in He-Man to see what I can find. And
Mhm.
it was early 2000s when I stumbled upon He-Man.org for the first time,
Right.
and that's
Same here.
when because you remember the commemorative figures were released sort of like as a soft launch for the upcoming 2002
2000X, yeah.
series. The
2000X,
2000
2002.
2000X, what we all call it now. So
Yeah.
like me finding those in Walmart led me to finding He-Man.org in the community online, which then showed me, oh my God, there's a new He-Man coming out. And it's
Mhm.
just been boom ever since. Ever since, man. It's been He-Man, He-Man, He-Man.
Well, if I can just share real quick, this is your interview, but just real
Yeah, yeah.
fast. So, I was collecting 2000X. I had missed. I wasn't back in it. I was doing Silverhawks 2004, 5, 6. I had all the Silverhawks, everything carded, everything boxed. Uh
Wow.
yeah, I didn't have the Mirage. The only thing I was missing was the main vehicle, but I had everything else carded. I was doing a move, ended up getting rid of everything, and I bought stuff so cheap. I had Thundercats carded, Thundercats box, the vehicles box brand new. I paid $25 for stuff in the box, brand new.
Man,
And
isn't that crazy?
dude, and I look at it now, it's like $800. I'm like,
I
for
know.
not even in a box, like loot. I'm like, what's happening here? Like, what did I do? And I was starting to repurchase some He-Man stuff. My first figure was a 2-pack of Panther and Skeletor, a gift set, like 95. So it was already like out for a year. I got it for Christmas. I got Thunder Punch He-Man that year, Castle of Lions, a few other things. And so I had those memories. I was like, I'm gonna start getting back into to He-Man. And I was looking for online. Obviously, eBay was around. It was early, early, early.
Early
I
eBay.
found you online, started watching stuff, and that's when I saw that figure from the Four Horsemen get shown off. How I found that, I had been on the org since as a lurker. Earlier, I said stalker. It was lurker. You were right. I'm sorry about that. But it was
Yeah.
yeah, that's the wrong word. But as a lurker, I had been on there since like 03, 04, like looking around because I was buying the Silverhawk stuff. And I saw that figure. I missed the King Grayskull from Comic Con, but December I was on the He-Man. I ordered 10 of him. January I ordered like 10 of Skeletor, if I'm not mistaken. I have all my receipts still from Digital River. I have all my receipts from everything that I
Oh my
bought.
God.
So listen to this. I bought a He-Man and Battle Cat. I'm skipping way forward now. He-Man and Battle Cat combo for like $25. It was like
Ah,
they were clearancing them out on there, and I bought like 4 of them, like 4 sets. Dude, like I look back, I was like, some of these receipts just show the prices. It's like, wow,
it's
wow,
yeah, like when that line launched, Classics, the figures were $20 a piece. And at the
yeah,
time, people were like, "What?
what? Yeah, like
$20
that
is
would be crazy.
outrageous."
It
Like
better be
people,
great.
yeah. Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right? And then, like you said, you pointed out that clearance. Like, holy cow, when the line was winding down, that stuff was all dirt cheap. It was
it was,
so
dude.
cheap. And there was a couple years after Classics ended where like you couldn't give that stuff away at conventions,
Mhm.
man. It was like dirt cheap. It wasn't until after Origins launched and a bunch of people discovered that Classics existed that the prices like skyrocketed. It's the
Yeah, I
craziest
would
thing.
even argue that Super 7's 5.5 retro line even started to
Yeah.
kick some of the stuff up,
Yeah,
with
you're probably right.
with
Yeah,
yeah, with
absolutely.
some of the pieces. Um, so we'll press on. So, uh, if let me ask you this. So I know what you're into, I know what you like, but you go around to so many things now, you're doing these toy hunts. If you had 3 toy lines, that you could have, right? 3 toy lines. I'm gonna do 3. If you wanna do 2, you can do 2. We'll say 3. I wanna do 3. They can't be Ghostbusters, it can't be
Ooh.
TMNT, and it cannot be Motu.
Oh
What
my
are the 3
god.
toy lines you would take right now?
Okay, it would be GI Joe.
Boom.
Um
Love that. That's
because
good.
GI Joe has been one of my new passions and I'm having so much fun with it. Like
You're one
it's
of them. I seen you, like, all decked out, man, like, with your
dude,
hair.
you know, GI Joe was a toy line that I had just some of as a kid, but I had a friend who had all the GI Joe. So I got my
Mhm.
GI Joe fix by going to his house and playing.
Right.
And that's like
Mhm.
that's my childhood GI Joe memories, right? So it's one of those things like
Gotcha.
I've always loved and admired that toy line, but I always, was like, I need to stay focused on He-Man and everything else. But like, I don't know, doing the toy hunts, right? You get to a point where you're like, I want something new to buy to keep things exciting. So GI Joe kind of became the thing, and it's dangerous, but I'm having fun. I'm having so much fun with it. So
Okay. All
GI
right.
Joe
So
would be
GI
the
Joe.
first one. So I guess that one's gonna be like my mainstream pick, right? If I had to
Okay.
pick two other toy lines to
Yeah.
pick up, I think it would be LJN Dungeons and Dragons,
Ooh.
because
Nice.
that'll give me my fantasy fix too, right? Since I can't do He-Man, that gives me
That's not
my
a large. That's
swords
not
and
very large either, right? That's
not a
more
very
doable.
big line, but it's like
Mhm.
it's a fun line, and the Fortress of
Yeah.
Fangs place that's amazing,
I
and
love that thing, dude.
it's so cool. So GI Joe, Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, this is tricky. Are we sticking strictly vintage, or do you want me to go like modern too?
Thundercats. Whatever.
Thundercats. You want me to say Thundercats? So it would be,
That could be anything. It
Thundercats
could be modern.
maybe.
Hey, I'm saying right now, because the way you toy hunt, you're looking around, you say, you know what, Amazon, whatever. You can
I
eBay.
have some. Ooh, that's tough. I honestly, I like I like modern toys. I like Origins and Masterverse and stuff.
Mhm.
I have way more fun buying vintage. I don't know. That's like been my thing, I guess, lately. So
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
why it's been more
The
exciting.
challenge. It's probably more of the
I guess
challenge.
maybe it's the challenge, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta
Well,
find
and
it.
I have
Yeah,
a rule. I'm getting way off topic, but my rule too is like I don't go on eBay to buy this stuff. I have to find it. That's my rule. So like it's way more fun when I'm out
interesting.
and about and I find it.
Okay.
Um so okay, gosh, let me think. Honestly, and this would be expensive. Okay, if I pick those two are like my vintage picks, I
That's okay.
guess.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
gonna pick up one. My modern pick, I think, would be Mythic Legions.
Really?
And that's expensive, but it's again, I'm not allowed to have Motu. And that's pretty like that
That's
really
cool.
butts that's the
They're
kind of stuff that
crossovers.
I
Yeah,
like, man. It's like
yeah.
the type of aesthetic that I go for in a toy, right? And I
Mm.
love the Horsemen, and the Horsemen have done some amazing Motu stuff too.
Well, God
So
forbid if you missed a drop. If you missed a drop.
that's what I mean. It's a
Yeah,
tough
yeah,
line
yeah.
to be in because
Gotta go
like it's
back. Yeah,
expensive.
yeah.
You can't go back now
Woo.
unless you want to spend a lot of money.
Dude, I mean, they have I mean, think about how much they've put out. Like,
It's
we could look, we
unreal,
could
man.
talk about it all night long. We'll
I
all
know.
right, so Mythic Legions would be the third one, more modern. GI Joe's obviously your first, and your D
Yeah,
and D's number two.
yeah.
Uh, and for those of you who have never looked at that playset, what's the is it?
Fortress of
The
Fangs.
Fortress of Fangs. Yeah, you
It's
got to
so
check that
good.
out.
It's
It's
so good. I
so
just bought
great.
one last year. It's one of my favorite play sets.
Oh
It's so
gosh,
cool.
it's so great. Yeah, it is. Well, all right. So I don't know. I'm lost on the Mythic Legions. Is just it's so
I
deep. I don't know how you
ooh.
would. I don't know how you would. All right. How about this?
That's
All right. So since you're talking about pricey stuff, what is your most prized piece in your collection? We'll move on from toys after this. This is the last question for toys. What's your most prized piece in your? And I don't not most expensive, not most expensive, but for you. And
this is
I know there's a special 8-back that you purchased of
mhm,
He-Man. I don't mean to cut into you. I know you got your own things. You've talked about many things on your channel. I've watched a lot of your videos. I know you love a lot of stuff, but if you had
mhm.
one thing you had to keep out of everything that you have, what is the most prized? It could be something from your childhood, your mom gave you, your dad, anything. What is the most prized piece that values not? It could be something valuable. Doesn't matter. What's
Yeah,
your most?
it's tough. This is always a tough question because like if we're talking about some of my favorite things, right? I'm gonna whittle it down here. Some of my favorite things. You mentioned that 8-back. I have a carded Takara 8-back
Mm-hmm.
He-Man, which is man one of the
Super.
coolest things that I
Yeah.
own because that He-Man figure, 82 He-Man, original He-Man, is the all-time most important toy to me. To me, like that's my toy, right? I love
Mm-hmm.
He-Man. I
Absolutely.
have a I have a striped tail Battle Cat, and you know how I am about Battle Cat too. I love Battle Cat. He-Man and Battle Cat are like my top two toys. But if we're talking about like what would I take? Like if I had to just take one toy
Grab
and keep
one
it.
thing. You got to grab one thing.
So
Remember
I
now,
and
play set
I have
toys.
I have only a handful of Motu figures left from my childhood because all of my Motu figures got sold in a yard sale. But for whatever reason, as a 12-year-old kid or whatever, however old I was, I still went through the box and picked out like 5 of my favorite figures, right? And it would have to be one of those for sure, just because it
Okay.
ties directly back to my
Yeah.
childhood. The question is, would it be Flying Fists He-Man, which is funny, that's the He-Man I chose to keep. Would it be
Not the
Scareglow
oof.
or would it be Mosquitor? Because
Oh,
those are
boy.
3 of the 5 that I kept from my childhood, and those are probably the 3 most important in that batch
Okay,
because
you can grab 3.
then it would be them.
It'll be
Those are the
3.
3.
Alright, I'll make it
Flying
easy
Fist
for you.
He-Man, Scareglow, and Mosquitor from
Yeah.
my childhood because
Yeah,
those tho
that's a great story. So those 3
those
or
would have
those
been like
5
actual
even.
figures that
Right,
my mom bought me, that I
right.
played with, that clearly mattered to me enough to hang on to them
So, like,
when I
you
decided to
can't let
get
these
rid of
go.
my
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
could never
these
let
can't
those
lose.
go. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, speaking of action figures you can't let go of, my understanding is you have your own action figure now.
Phew,
I mean,
yeah,
it's a bendy, but you have your own figure.
yeah, it's a bendy figure.
It's a bit I hate to say but, it is
I
a
know.
bendy,
Well, no,
but
I
it's
mean,
still
because
cool, man.
w I it's funny because, like, I've spent time in my videos over the years making fun of, like, Star Wars Bendums and stuff, and now my first figure
Here
is a
you are,
Bendum.
you're a bendy. It's the best ever. Yeah.
But, yeah, I have a bendy figure,
I
and
hear
it's
it's worth
it's
like $60 on the market. That's what I hear. That's what I hear. I don't
figure,
know
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Um, it's really cool, and it's not it's
Yeah,
man, it's not something I ever expected to happen. Like, this is like a real production, real action figure that's part of a
it
real
is.
toy line,
Absolutely.
and it
It's so
blows
cool.
my mind that it happened, you know? And, the funny thing about it is because it's an action figure of me as my pro wrestling persona, is one of these weird full circle moments for me. Like, I never would have imagined that for anybody that doesn't know, like I've been involved in independent pro wrestling since 2001. Like I graduated high school and I was like, I want to be a wrestler. And I joined the local wrestling academy and I learned how to wrestle. And then I spent most of my 20s traveling around the Midwest working shows every weekend. Like that's like
Wow.
I'm a wrestler. And I was doing it for a long time. I do it less now, but I still do it because I love it. And it's one of those things. It's like, man, it's hard to quit it, right? Because you love it. And so like I had an opportunity a little over a year ago to work with Matt Cardona,
Right,
and
yeah.
he's a big toy guy too, right? So I got to know him online just because we're both toy nerds.
Right.
And he's been working the indies. He's the king of the indies right now. It's insane. His work rate is unmatched. It's unbelievable. But there was an opportunity that came up, and I was like, "Hey, man, like, I think we could work together if you'd be up for that." And he was like, "Hell yeah!"
Oh, yeah.
So it got booked, and we worked a match together, and it was super fun. And we had a blast. And Matt's a pro, and it was a great time. What I didn't realize was going to happen is that it was going to lead to this, because it was because that happened that it kind of led to me getting an action figure in his, because that's his toy line, right? The
Yeah.
Major Bendies is his toy
Major
line.
bendies. Right.
And it was because of them, and of course because of PowerCon coming together to come up with exclusives for PowerCon, that they decided to do an action figure of me, of my wrestling character Spencer Powers. And the day, like, they basically, like, what happened, Val called me and was like, "Hey, I just got off the phone with Matt. We just worked out all of the exclusives for PowerCon. Do you want to hear them?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, sure. Give me the list."
Yeah.
And he's
Let
like,
me
"Oh,
hear it.
well,
Why you calling
yeah."
me
And he's
about
like,
this?
"Oh, well, we're doing this new version of Matt Cardona. We're doing this new version of Brian Myers. We're doing this new version of Smart Mark Sterling, and we're doing the Spotlight Spencer Powers." And I was
You're
like,
like,
"What?" And he goes, "Yeah, man, Matt wants to do it." And I went, "No, you're joking." And he goes, "No, Matt wants to do it. He thought it was a great idea." And I was like, "Holy crap." And then that's when he was like, "So are you cool with that? Do you want to do it?" Because now I have to actually like sign off on it, because I have to like approve. I actually had to prove likenesses and stuff. It was
really?
crazy. Like they sent me
Yeah.
artwork and
Great.
I had to approve it. It was like a whole thing, man. It was like a real deal
Wow.
thing. So
And
it was
and you know
unbelievable,
what?
dude.
You know what book for PowerCon? You know what's on the front cover of that book that your bendy figure picture is in? What's on the front cover of that book? Do you know? It's a line you just said you'd like to collect.
Oh, is it are you talking
I'm
about
right.
the PowerCon booklet?
PowerCon, the pamphlet. Yeah, the little pamphlet. Yeah.
Ooh, what was
Um,
on the cover of that? Was it Mythic
it's the
Legions?
green. It's Mythic Legions. It's the green.
Okay.
What's his name, man? See, I thought you would know this. That's why I asked you.
Is it the Whiplash looking one that they just did for Cosmic Legions? Is it
No, so your bendy
Oh,
figure
no, no, no,
is
no, because it was their PowerCon exclusive. It
it's
was
exclusive. Yeah,
the
because he's
green
all like
and
translucent green. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Your
I can't
but
remember his
your
name, but it's
picture is
awesome.
in that book. You're in there on one of the pages. I was gonna show it up here and be like, look at this, man. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like you're in media, you've got stuff rolling. But
Dude,
I'm getting ahead of
I
myself. I
sent
want to stick to wrestling for a moment. Go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah, yeah, no. I was just gonna say I sent one off to be graded. I got one graded just
Did
because
you?
I don't
Who'd you
grade
AFA?
toys very
Who'd you use?
often. AFA, AFA.
AFA.
Like
Okay, cool.
they were at a convention that I was set up at, and it was one of those things where I was like, it might be kind of fun to go get my toy graded.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
took it over there,
Absolutely.
and like they accepted it, and I got it back. So I have a slabbed Spencer
Wow.
Powers Major Bendy. I
What did it
posted that,
grade
and Cardona told me I was the first person to grade a Major Bendy figure.
at? I don't know if that's good or not, but I
I,
mean, if I don't know.
I mean, I
So,
couldn't pass up the opportunity. It's my guy. It's my toy. So I was like, I
did
want
you
one in the acrylic.
did you do
I
the
wanted to be
vintage?
in their system. I wanted to be in their system.
Yeah, but did you do the vintage style grading or did you do the modern? So the vintage
What's the
style has like
difference?
bubble card. So it'll show card, figure, bubble. It'll have grades and then it'll show overall grade. The modern grading just shows like an overall point 7.5,
Oh,
8.0,
that's what
8.5.
it is.
The old one show 95. Yes. You should have did the old style. That way you could see what you graded as a figure
Oh,
yourself.
interesting. Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
Now,
it
now you
came
got
back as
another
like
one off.
it came back as an 8.5, which also made me laugh because it was fresh out of the case. Like I was like, this is a case fresh figure. Why is it an
That was
8.5?
an 8.5. It's like a 10, dude. Come on. And it's me. I submitted it. Like my name's on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
paperwork, man. You know, like come on. I picked them out. I knew which one was the best.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, speaking of wrestling, so let's shift real quick. Your wrestling career. I've seen a lot of that. It's pretty cool stuff. If you
Oh,
could,
thanks,
real
man.
quick, let's touch on that real fast. Um, One, how do you stay in shape if you consider that a thing from getting injured? Does your family stress over that? Do you worry about that? Uh, you know, and up to this point, like what has been the biggest moment? So how do you stay healthy enough to not get injured? And what's the biggest moment you've had? I'll throw both those questions that way we can try to work both of them in.
Oh, that's no, that's good. So, training is so important. And when I was doing it on the regular, like I was still going into the local wrestling gym, at least once a week, but I always try to do a couple times a week and just getting in the ring and rolling around and running drills and working stuff out because like ring shape is so different than anything else. Like
Then in shape.
wrestling ring cardio is like its own thing. Like you could be in super good shape and then step in that ring and run those ropes a little bit and you'll be totally winded, right? Like
Mhm.
it's its own thing you got to like build up training for. And to be perfectly honest, even like in my 20s, I was never good about like working out aside from like doing my wrestling training. Like I did my
Right.
drills and stuff, but I never was like a body build guy, right? Like I was never a body guy. Um, but it is tough. And I don't know, injury is always kind of like there in the back of your mind. But like man, when you're like going, you don't think about it, especially when you're younger. Holy
Okay.
cow, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
I did some stupid things sometimes that I probably wouldn't do anymore. Nowadays, I do think about it more, especially because I have kids. And honestly, like I'm 42 now, and that's part of the reason like I started slowing down in the last couple years because now I'm at a point where like I go to a locker room and the locker room's filled with 20-year-olds and I'm 42, right?
Right.
Like I'm an old guy now. I'm an old man in wrestling. It's weird. And like man, every bump you take feels like it hurts more than it used to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you know, I do worry about it a little bit more, but that's why I kind of cut back on it. But like, man, like I said, like wrestling is hard to get away from, especially when
Right.
it's been such a big part of my life and I love it so much. And um like I got out of bed one day at the end of like in December, and I was like, man, I'm only 42 in March. I need to do something. And so I joined a gym and got a trainer in January, and I've been lifting regularly since January. I'm on a good streak. I've nonstop since January right now.
Good
So
on
I'm
you,
actually
man.
like working. Thank you. I'm working out way harder now than I ever have been. And part of that is because I'm getting older and I know that I need to take care of myself. But the
Right.
other part of it is because like the itch is there, man. I still want to do stuff. I'm not ready to hang it
Yeah.
up all the way yet, you know? So
Okay.
it's man, it's a drug.
Well,
Wrestling is, I tell you
it
what.
seems like you love it. You love it, right? Well, if you love it that much, let me present this to you. If you're you're obviously very passionate about it. You've even taken the stride to like go work out now to make sure it seems like is what you're saying to make sure you can continue that
Mhm.
career for a while because of that spark, that the enjoyment that you have, and also stay healthy so you don't get hurt. You know, because now you have to
Right,
work on different body parts that you didn't have to
right,
so much focus on years ago. So
right.
since you're so hard into wrestling, and I know you are, you have your own figure. Like, I mean, I don't know how, you know, I mean, people are going to be going sifting through bins at one point, and they're going to find your major bendy in a bin for
Isn't that
$100 a piece.
crazy? That's totally gonna
Yeah,
happen
like,
one day. My
I
stuff's
mean, but
gonna
it's
be
going
like
to
in
be
a
in there.
bin
You're
at a
like, oh, look,
convention.
I know what that is. You know, I'll take it. So,
I can't
so
wait.
I mean, it's going to happen at some point.
I
Uh,
know. I hope I
now,
find one day. Like, oh my god.
yeah, we're gonna have to set that up at a show. Like, I'm gonna just rip one open, like
No, it's
flip
gotta
it on
be
the ground a
natural.
little bit, throw it in a box. Dan, look at this, dude. It's your figure, man. So, speaking of wrestling, right? If you, I know you've been doing this since what, '01, you said 2001?
Yeah, 2001 is when I started training. Yeah.
All right. So, let's present you with this. Because I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. If I could give you one venue and one,
Oh, dang.
like you could do any venue, any event. It has to be an event, a venue, and a tag team partner. Who would it be? Where would it be? And which event would it be?
So this is totally like hypothetical. It doesn't have to be like
Well,
it could just
obviously, I
be
mean, we're not. I don't know. Maybe you're going to be doing like SummerSlam or I don't know. But
right. But what
yeah,
I mean is like are we talking about old wrestlers, current
I'm talking about
wrestlers, like
here. Okay,
totally
yeah, I'm glad you asked that because in my,
yeah.
I wanted to hear what you thought. It could be anybody, and I know who your go-to guy is. I know, but
Mm.
people would like to hear this, so I'd like to hear what in a venue. Remember this: anywhere in the world, you could have a venue, any
So
event
I feel like
in the
I feel
wrestling.
like I feel like I would love to work at Madison Square Gardens. Just because
You
that's
do know
like
it's a new place. It's the same name. I think they tore it down and rebuilt it. So I'm just throwing that out there
mm,
just to
I know, but like, you know, it's like
okay, but
that's like
Yeah,
wrestling
yeah.
legacy, right?
The
It's
Garden,
like
yeah, Madison
the
Square Garden. I got
Garden. It'd be
you. Yeah,
awesome to
the
work at
Garden,
the
yeah,
Garden. There's a lot of great like old school wrestling
I got you. Yeah.
buildings. Like the ECW arena would be cool too, right? Like all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, the Garden I think is what I would choose.
Okay.
Um, so I'm choosing a tag team partner.
If you want to. If not, you can just say you're gonna be by yourself. You could do, but I want you to
So I
choose an
would
event. What
all
event
right,
would it be?
an event. Do I mean like
Like Rumble? I mean, you've done the Royal
should it
Rumble
be
style.
WrestleMania?
Okay,
WrestleMania
I
is
mean,
like
that's what I'm
the
asking you.
show, right?
If you had to pick one, well, is it though for you? That's what I mean. We're talking about you. We're talking about Dan.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Okay. So it would be Madison Square Garden. It would be
Okay.
WrestleMania, and it wouldn't be a
Ooh.
tag team partner. It would be against The Undertaker.
Oh, lovely.
I
So
want to
you're
fight
losing. In
The
other words,
Undertaker
you're
because
losing. In other words,
I want to do the whole shtick, dude. I want to be standing in the ring when
you
those
want to get picked
gongs
up
go
and like
off.
just
Yeah. I want to know what it feels like to
right.
be standing in the ring when the lights go out and
Wow.
the gongs go off and you see him marching towards you with that
Boom.
trench
Yeah, here
coat
he
and
comes.
hat.
Yeah.
right? And then I want to do the whole thing. I want to take the choke slams. I want him to sit up. I want to get scared. I want to take the tombstone. All of it. Like that would be amazing.
Wow. Dude,
I
so
would.
let's set that up. Let's get
Let's
this
do it.
later
Somebody
on, man.
call
We
Mark.
need to get this done. Get Cardona on the phone. Somebody call somebody. Let's get this thing rolling. Triple H, man, I know you're gonna watch my podcast, I know a little video. I
Yeah,
know
right.
you love me. Let's set this up. We could do like a
I
little
don't know. I
side
might have a
match.
hard time not like turning into a little kid and crying in the middle of the ring when that happens. Like,
No, when he
I
picks
can't
you up, dude,
believe
listen, you might cry when he grabs you because he's probably a lot taller than you, a lot taller.
Definitely
But
a lot taller than me.
he's
Yeah.
a lot taller. Speaking of writing your own story for that, right? You have written a book as well. I mean,
I
you
have.
are a published
Yes.
author at this point.
I'm a published author. That's
So not
wild,
only
right?
have you done, let's see, man, we we're an hour. We haven't even covered everything here. We're an hour in here, man. So you have done YouTube, you've wrestled, you've got a book out. Let's
I
touch
wear
on
many
that real
hats.
quick.
Yeah.
This book is phenomenal for those who don't know. I'm going to show it off real quick. It's very, you've got one too, though. So listen, so I have stubby fingers, but I got big hands. And let me tell you something, man. This thing,
It's the
it's
beast.
ridiculous. It is just, I don't even want to show it. You have to go get one. The toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I mean, but look at that. Look at that. I mean,
Dude,
you're on the spine
seeing my name there
forever,
was,
dude. Like, it's just
yeah.
crazy.
Look, and that's, look, I worked real
Yeah.
hard on that book, right? And a lot
Yeah,
of us did.
absolutely.
It was not just
Absolutely.
me. I had an
I know a
amazing
lot of people.
team backing me up, but like I worked my ass off on that book. Like that book
Absolutely.
broke me, right? I had never done anything like that before. So I went into this cold, figured it out on my own with help, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't want to, obviously I'm very thankful for the team that helped me put this together. I couldn't have done it without their help and the help of all the fans that I visited to photograph everything. But like, it was one of those things where like, man, I poured my heart into that because it was something that I wanted so bad. And like the day that I got that book and saw my name on the
Yeah,
spine, like I broke down, man. Like that, like
for sure.
I was so happy. And it's the story, the thing that I like to tell people is like I've had this great opportunity to do all this cool stuff over the years with Masters of the Universe. And like
Right.
Mattel has sent me samples from time to time and I've gotten to interview them at conventions and I've done
Mhm.
some panel stuff. But like this book was the first time that I got to officially work on the brand.
Yeah.
Like this is a licensed thing, and forever my name will be tied now to this brand because of this book, and that mattered to me more than I could. Like I don't know, like that was just such a big deal to me. Like it felt like years, like decades worth of work finally paid off, and
For
now
sure.
this thing that I've loved since I was a little kid, my name is a forever attached to it somewhere because of this book. So
Fantastic.
that mattered to me a lot, man.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, man, you got, you and the team and Dark Horse did a great job. It's a great book.
Thank
The
you.
layout is beautiful. The photos are fantastic. The pieces that you show
Oh,
off. For
thank
those of you who
you.
don't have the book, you got to check it out. You got to pick it up. Do you have a place that you recommend people to go pick this book up at right
So,
now?
I mean, the easiest for all of you is to buy it on Amazon. Honestly, Amazon's kind of the cheapest too because it's Amazon, so they do the thing. But
Yeah.
if you just want to grab it, man, I just appreciate you getting it no matter where you get it.
Right.
Local bookstores and comic stores can order it for you. So if you want to support your local shops, you can go get it
There you
that
go.
way.
Cool.
If you want to get one from me directly and have me sign it, either you can catch me at a convention or I have some on my Whatnot store now. I just recently launched a Whatnot store. It's if you've
Really?
never heard of
Okay.
it before, it's an app that you can download and sign up for. There's no obligation to do anything, but I have a store on there and then you can just buy things directly on my store. So if you
Okay.
want to check it out, just look up Pixel Dan on Whatnot and you can order a book directly from me and I'll sign it. I can personalize it for you. So whatever is best for you, there's multiple ways to pick up this book right now.
All right, when's your next when's the next convention you're gonna be at?
So the
Do you know?
next one will be Joe Fest in just a couple weeks here. What is
3
the
weeks from
date of
today?
that? 3 weeks from today. It's like the third weekend in June. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, I'm like scrambling to look at the calendar right
The
here. What is it?
21st, I
The
believe?
weekend of the
20
21st, 22nd, 23rd.
21st.
It's that
Right.
weekend right there. So
Mhm.
so I'll be there, which will be awesome. I'm doing that. And then in July, I'm going up to Utica, Michigan. I'm going to be
Okay.
making an appearance at Sergeant Red's. It's a toy store up there in Michigan. That's going to be July 14th. And then San Diego Comic-Con is like the week
That's
after
right
that.
around the corner.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I got a pretty busy schedule coming up here of a couple different appearances like that are all over the country, different spots,
Yeah.
but it'll be
So,
fun.
yeah, if you guys wanna see, Pixel Dan in person, say hello to him and pick up a book, and if you wanna get it personalized, he'll have those with him. He'll be at those shows.
Absolutely.
Make sure you check him out.
Or if you
Uh,
just want to come and talk, there's no obligation
yeah,
to
yeah,
buy
yeah,
anything from
right,
me. You
right. No,
can
I
just
just
come
meant
say
the
hi.
book in itself.
I
Yeah.
appreciate you pimping my
Well,
stuff
show
though,
show
man.
people you're not
That's
buying a book, man. Don't
yeah.
don't don't if you're
Yeah,
not getting a
don't
video,
say
don't
anything to me if you're not giving me money.
at least buy a pen. You got these little
Just
pen. I
kidding.
got some cool
Just
pens.
kidding.
Nah, I'm
Don't take
joking,
that
yeah.
out. That's gonna get clipped now, and people are gonna post that everywhere. Don't
Oh
take
my
that out of
god.
context.
You know what? Listen, I'll get them straight. Don't
Yeah.
copyright strike. Now, you can't use my video, bro, without my permission.
Yeah.
Let that be
Start
known right
copy
now.
striking.
Yeah, that's right. This is my video. So, so, so let me ask you this real quick on the book, and I'm gonna move into one last thing after this, another topic, and then
Sure.
we'll finish it up. But are there any books in the future here? Are we working on anything? Anything down the pipeline? Any little secrets you may reveal? You know,
I am I am working on a couple of projects
a
at the same
couple.
time. Um, it's
Okay.
it's a lot of work. I'm doing my best to get through it. I'm
Okay.
hoping to have an official announcement for one of them soon, which is one that I know a lot of people are
Yeah.
excited about because I get asked about it all the time. So get your pizzas ready, and
Ooh-wee.
hopefully I'll be putting up a pre-order pretty soon here.
Well, maybe we can have you back for like you know, I mean, obviously there's a lot to go into that, but maybe we can have you back for a little not announcement,
Absolutely.
like maybe the third or eighth or 12th person in line for an announcement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no worries,
Come
man.
back,
Yeah,
you know,
no, when
hey
it's
man,
when I'm
we can
ready to
actually
talk
get some
about it,
pizza.
I want to
We
go
can get some
everywhere to
pizza.
talk about it, so we can
Let's
do it.
do it, man. Let's set that up. So so what's the other project?
I can't
There's a
talk about
couple.
it
Oh,
yet.
God.
That one I
Damn
definitely
it,
can't talk
it's
about yet.
copyrighted, man. I'll copyright strike somebody. They can't clip that, man. It's my
See,
video.
it's another
I do not
project
give
that I
anyone
was
permission to use my video. So,
look, it's all I could
alright,
say is it's another toy related project that I
cool.
was hired for.
Alright.
And I can't really say anything else about it until because there's lots of
Right, right.
involvement from
I got
legal
you.
stuff.
That's cool,
So
man. Legality. Well, too much
eventually,
of that.
hopefully I'll get to talk about it.
Alright, cool. Alright, well, so let's just segue from that to, just a couple of things to wrap this up. I appreciate you sharing everything, thus far and how things are and all the things you've experienced. You've been through a lot, dude. You wear many, many hats, as you said.
I do.
Uh,
It's exhausting.
but if people don't know what you mentioned earlier about children, you're married. You have, if they
Yes.
watch your videos, if they don't know, but you're married, you have children.
Mhm.
How do you handle, all these things and still have time for family? Because obviously you're
Ugh.
very busy. Uh, you
I
know,
wish I wish I had the magic answer for this. But there's really like there's really no like special thing that I'm doing. The other thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is that I also work a day job. That is totally unrelated to toys and Pixel Dan and all this stuff. It is just a 9 to 5 regular job that I've had this whole time. I never left my regular job. So everything that I'm doing with Pixel Dan and book stuff, all of that is outside of my regular day job. So
mhm,
my days basically consist of working the day job and then the evenings are dedicated to my kids and my wife, and then I put the kids to bed, and then I spend time in the studio filming, or I spend time writing, or I spend time editing. And I usually can like balance that with like, a lot of times if it's a night that I'm editing, I sit on the couch next to my wife and we turn on the TV together and I edit videos and we spend time
Right.
together while I'm doing that. She is just the most supportive, best partner anybody could ask for. Like
Right.
she's amazing. And like even when I go through moments, like especially with writing, I it's hard sometimes, and I go through moments
Yeah.
where I don't want to do it, and she makes me. She tells me to get off my butt and do stuff.
That's
So
cool, man.
it's awesome because I have such a supportive spouse, and so I just do the best I can to spend as much time with them, and I squeeze it in, man. I just make it work, and it's not always easy. Like I definitely have burnout, and I definitely go through days where I don't want to do anything except lay on the
Right.
couch. I mean, we
Right.
all
Yeah.
do that, I think, but
Yeah.
um it's tough. I with the YouTube channels, I try to keep myself to a strict schedule so that I put out a new video every Saturday. And so like I kind of just have to make myself do it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to
Yeah.
miss a day if I can avoid it. And yeah, I don't want to say it's easy. I don't want to say I have any sort of like magic trick that's going to make it work. I just do. I just make it work the best I can. So my family is super important to me, and I absolutely want to make sure that like they're happy first, right? That's number one.
Absolutely.
Number
Yeah.
one is
They come yeah,
number one.
come first.
Yeah.
Well, so knowing that, you have the family responsibilities, you have an awesome spouse, a fantastic woman who supports you, does things for you, helps you out. Obviously, I know that. I've seen the videos. She's involved. Your kids are involved. Everything's happening. You said 9 to 5. Have you at any point thought about, you know, hanging up that 9 to 5 to focus just on this
Yeah.
other this other hat or multiple hats that you wear? Have you thought about that?
All the time for the last 18 years, man. It's I don't know. And it's one of those things where like, man, I've had this discussion with a lot of people too over the years. A lot of people that have done that and have gone full time into it. It's scary, right? And I think if I didn't have kids, I think I probably would have done it. But for
Okay.
me, it's one of those things where like I want like the insurance and just like
Yeah.
making sure that they're taken care of is what's most important to me. And if that means I just have to work a bunch, that means I have to work a bunch. And that's
Right.
just what I need to do. And I don't
Gotcha.
know, maybe one day I'll get to a point where like I'm writing a bunch of books and they're bringing in some good money, and maybe that could be my job.
Maybe then.
But
Okay.
it's tough, right? Like it's tough. Like that's you're talking about a world where, and a lot of people do it, a world where your paychecks aren't guaranteed, right? Like
Mhm.
when you're all your living is being made off of like earnings from various projects. It's different than getting a steady paycheck every
Right.
other week from a 9 to 5. So
Right.
it's hard, and some people thrive in that, and some people like me are just like kind of intimidated by it, honestly, to be
Yeah, that's
perfectly
understandable.
honest. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I
Because
don't
if
know,
an
maybe.
if an IP runs out or a project runs out, you have to find another one on your own. You're a
Right,
freelancer at that point.
right.
You also depend on the audience. And when you touched on earlier about your channels, if the algorithm
Yeah,
changes on you midstream and you're like, "Wait a minute, what now?" Like, the
and that's
swing
the
has
thing
moved.
too.
What would you do?
And
Like, your
right, it
support
could all go
system.
away tomorrow. It could all go
Right,
away tomorrow, and I don't
right,
know that for sure. And I mean, the reality is too, like, the other thing, like, if you're not involved in YouTube, it's hard to like know exactly how it works. But I don't make enough money off of YouTube ad revenue to like live off of. Like
right,
the
right.
money that comes in off of my YouTube ad revenue basically goes right back into this business and keeps it going. Like
Mhm.
that's the only way I can pay to like fly to Comic-Con and fly to New York Toy Fair, and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, in order to
so
do all this. Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's my business, and you invest in your business, right? That's the way it works. Like you make money and you spend money and you make money and you spend money and you keep it going. Um, I've never been, I'm not a million subscriber, millions of views guy on YouTube like all these kids are now. So I'm not making a living off of my YouTube videos. I'm
Yeah,
talking about
quite a bit
toys.
though. You're doing all right. You're
Yeah.
doing I mean,
Yeah.
you're I don't when I say all right, I don't mean I'm not talking about monetary. What I mean is outside looking in, you know, you have a a very substantial amount of following uh, that you've
Yes.
built up over the years.
Oh,
But they're not
absolutely.
always all still watching every weekend. It's hard to get the ad revenue is based on the watchers.
Right.
With the subscribers unlocks that, but you have to have the people watching. So new
Yeah.
content, new ways to come up with things. So let me ask you this then, and this will be the last question I ask you, and then we'll wrap it up here in a minute. But so based on what I'm hearing, is there always going to be a Pixel Dan presence online, or do you think one day you'll hang that multiple hat
I
up? You know,
I always say that as long as I'm having fun, I'm gonna keep doing this.
yeah,
If I get to a point where this isn't fun anymore, that means it's done, man. I'm not gonna spend
gotcha.
time doing something that's not fun anymore. So
I
as
got
long
you,
as
man.
I'm having a good time, Pixel Dan will probably be here.
Yeah, that's good to know, man. I mean, that's in a nutshell, that's I wanted to hear that. I enjoy you being around. I enjoy watching your stuff.
Well, thank you,
Make sure
man.
you check Dan out. He's got some really great content. The new channel, you can plug the new channel,
Yeah,
the
it's
Pixel
Pixel
Dan
Dan Toy
Toy Hunt.
Hunts is what it's
Toy Hunt.
called. So just do a search for Pixel Dan Toy Hunts and you should find it. The thing that was
I'll put
tricky
a link
about
down
that is
below.
like,
But
yeah,
yeah,
it wasn't showing up in the search bar at first, but that's because I had to build it up. So now I think people can find it if you search for it.
right.
So Pixel Dan
Yeah.
Toy Hunts, and you should run across it.
I've only been on I've done like 2 weeks maybe. I've only been on here. It's like my sixth or seventh. This is my seventh video maybe. And the first week I put at action figure. I couldn't even the at symbol. Like it's not coming up. What's the problem here?
Isn't that
That's my
weird? It's
that's
like
my
it takes
symbol.
a little bit to like
Yeah,
get
and then
it
all of a
in.
sudden now I do it. It comes up. It's lights, camera, action figures. There's someone else with the same channel. They started like a year after me. I just never did anything when I started it. Um,
Yeah.
but anyways, man, it's been enjoyable. I appreciate you coming on. Uh, just let everyone know real quick that my YouTube channel is going to be structured kind of like where I'll do this. I'll interview someone like Dan, no, not like Dan. Dan's one in, I don't want to say million,
Oh, come
billion.
on. There's a lot
Yeah,
of
come on,
interesting
man.
people out there. There's a lot of
There
people
are
more
fantastic.
interesting than me.
Listen, honestly, man, there are some great people out there. I'd love to get on here and have come on and interview. But I'm also gonna I'll do the toy review here and there, But there's
Sure.
people who do that already. But my main thing is I want people to reach out to me and I have multiple ways to do that. You can look below. I want you to reach out to me and tell me what you want to talk about. And I will touch on everyone's topic for action
I
figures.
like
Like
that.
if it's something because maybe you want to come on and talk, whoever you are, and maybe you don't want to start a channel. Maybe you're not interested in that, but you want to talk about something for a few
Oh,
minutes. We can do that. So my channel is based on, instead of me coming up with topics for you to watch, you tell me what you want to watch or what you want me to talk about. I'll talk about it. I'll do a 10-minute video or so, touch on it. You can comment below if you agree with what I said. People can come in and chat about it. And if it's something that blows up, we can do a live. We can go over it again. That's how, so I have an email, let's hear you here at
ah,
gmail.com. So it's LETSHEARYOUHERE at gmail.com. So let's hear you here. I'm Thunder Punch He-Man on Instagram. Obviously Pixel
yes.
Dan. Is that Pixel
Right.
Dan on
At Pixel Dan on pretty
Instagram?
much everything.
On everything. Everything. Yeah.
Yep.
Even though it's just he's everywhere. So but I will put links below for you, Dan, for everybody they can reach out
Awesome.
to you.
Thank you, man.
But I do appreciate the time. Thanks for letting me get that little plug in right there. I had to
Oh,
get
of
that little
course,
plug,
man. Yeah,
you
plug
know?
your stuff, man. That's the way you gotta
Yeah.
do it. That's the way you gotta do it.
But I'll get this posted up and I appreciate your time again.
Thanks for having
Thank
me,
you
man.
for
It was awesome. It was an easy interview. It was fun talking about all this stuff, and
it was
thanks
easy.
to
Hold on, man.
everybody for
Hold on,
for
man.
joining in and watching.
Should have been tough, man. You should be like, whoo, that's over with, man.
Yeah, I was
But
sweating, man. Like, oh my
yeah,
god.
hey, thank you to your family as well for the time,
Oh yeah,
slot time for pulling aside to come on, man. So
they're the best.
I appreciate everything. And everyone, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow me for more stuff. Check me out on Instagram, check out Dan, and we'll talk to you soon. Y'all take
All
care.
right. Until next time.
Till next time.